Could you give me a map and tell me something about this place? During the Prohibition era, there was a little paradise in the US that was home to some of the most notorious gangsters in the world. This is where Al Capone and Lucky Luciano gambled in underground casinos and bathed in thermal spas. These days, the place still retains its charm and mystique. Would you like to learn more about it? Then welcome to Hot Springs, the haven of the Mafia. We're still continuing our itinerary through the southern United States. Look what I've got in the background here. Today, we're going to take a look at a very peculiar national park in Arkansas. But first, let's grab a little snack and recharge. I felt like eating something light, so I ordered a turkey sandwich. And look just how light it is. And this is an onion ring. I can't believe it. Our journey across the southern United States has taken us from Texas to western Arkansas, specifically the town of Hot Springs. It's located in the Washita River Valley and is surrounded by hills and lakes. Hot Springs is not just an idyllic little town, it is also a U.S. national park. The peculiarity of this park is that it is located directly in the city. As you can see, it starts right here. Along this street that goes up, there are a number of bathhouses in Hot Springs, which in the 19th century were declared a federal reserve in order to preserve for future generations. And this is my first encounter with local water. Come on, Bathhouse Row. This is a popular spot among tourists who come here on weekends and, like us, stroll down this street. Check out this quaint store and admire the historic buildings of the bathhouses. Over there you see one of these bathhouses. There are about 6 of them on this street and they are located one after another. They are the true gem of this town and now they are helping to bring it back to life. This city has gone through different eras. Currently, the town is experiencing a big tourist boom, which it had first experienced before, but a long time ago. However, between the 30s and the 60s, this place was very different. It was the Las Vegas of the time, before Las Vegas itself had become established, and a lot of famous gangsters came here because there was a lot of lawlessness and the local authorities turned a blind eye to it. It's only now that tourism, of a more friendly kind, is making a comeback. We can learn a little bit more about the previous era by visiting the Gangster Museum. Let's go and take a look. The Gangster Museum of America will tell you about the darker side of Hot Springs history and the lives of the most egregious mafiosi who were almost never persecuted here, at least not until they were seen on the side of the national park.
You see, when the gangsters came to this town, they could walk this side of the street with impunity. Of course, they were protected by the local authorities here. So this is state property. That side of the street where the bathhouses are, that's federal land. The gangsters knew they had to be really careful over on that side of the street. They couldn't walk surface level over there without endangering themselves and being arrested over there. So from this side of the street, they had passageways from a lot of these businesses here to get sight unseen right under Central Avenue. So they could enjoy the bathhouses, the speakeasies, that bowling alley, of course, and allegedly even a passageway from the Arlington Hotel to St. Mary's Cathedral.
Just imagine how many legends there must be about the undiscovered tunnels between these two areas. The most famous gangster to frequent Hot Springs was Al Capone. In the early 1920s, Alphonse Gabriel Al Capone came here to heal his ailments in the famous thermal waters.
He came to this town to treat a very nasty disease called syphilis in the therapeutic waters here. Al Capone was terrified of most allopathic Western medical procedures, especially needles. So he was coming here for a natural cure-all, and I believe he and many others were sadly mistaken that these waters could cure such a disease. We surely know these ancient waters are wonderful for arthritis and a lot of aches and pains because, of course, these hot springs waters are loaded with beneficial minerals. But while Al Capone was here, he discovered something that he really fell in love with, and that kept him around for a while. And that was the moonshine coming down from the hills. He considered it the best moonshine he had ever tasted, and perhaps for good reason, because it was also made with the ancient waters from this area.
In the museum, you can also see personal belongings and police files of many of these criminals, as well as sports equipment. At the time, Hot Springs was a training and recreation center for various baseball teams, as well as players of other sports and gamblers, and all this in one place. One of the most intriguing items in the museum is the posthumous mask of the famous John Dillinger. A mask like this is not unusual in the context of the forensic science of the time. This one, however, seems to be cursed. In the 1960s, the illicit activities came to an end. Then Governor Winthrop Rockefeller and Judge Henry M. Britt launched a campaign against gambling and bootlegging that ended with the famous burning of slot machines. However, some managed to survive to this day, and you can see them in this museum too. At the end of the Bathhouse Row stands another landmark from this era, the Arlington Hotel, which opened in 1925 next to the National Park. Each year, Al Capone reserved the entire 4th floor of the hotel for himself and his friends. The basement of this hotel housed a casino and a speakeasy. Many gangsters such as Frank Costello, Bugs Moran, or Auntie Madden have frequented it. Today, this hotel attracts many tourists who want to get a taste of that era. Look at how much of the national park is within the city itself. The Arlington Hotel is located here, and directly opposite lies one of the park's most typical sights, a hot spring. Ooh, it's really warm. I have heard that in the summer some people even bathe here. I don't know if it's legal, but it seems to be quite common, at least on Saturday nights. And here's another spring, though it's cold. I don't know why it's cold. One of the most unusual facts about this national park is that its main visitor center is inside one of the old buildings, which used to be a bathhouse. Let's go inside. Check this out. Before 1985, it was a private bathhouse, but now it's been turned into a store and a visitor center. The bathhouses of Hot Springs are architectural treasures of the United States. Some were built in the neoclassical style, others in the modernist style, all dating back to the early 20th century, and each one has its own personality. I wanted to show you the Fordyce Bathhouse, which is another historic building on this street, which until recently was also used as a visitor center. But judging by this blackboard, it has moved to the Ozark Bathhouse, which is a little farther to the right. The two operating bathhouses that were open when we arrived were Quapaw and Bugstaff. We decided to check out the Quapaw as it's more modern. Well, I'm in the pool of the Quapaw Bathhouse. It's supposed to be the most modern one, although the interior is very traditional. I say it's the most modern because other bathhouses offer typical old-fashioned treatments of that time. They use retro machines, and you sit for 20 minutes in one area, then in another, then the next. This one is more like a modern spa complex. Can't show you much because it's not permitted to film inside, but in these pictures you can get a feel for the ambiance. There is a long pool, and below there are several smaller pools with water of different temperatures. The hottest is 104 degrees, which is rather warm, and the coldest is 59 degrees, which is pretty cold. By the way, they say that despite the fact that the water here is considered healing, it has a small amount of radioactive substances, such as radon. I hope nothing will happen to us. The next day, we decided to visit the green part of the park. It's easily accessible on foot from Bathhouse Row, but we opted to use the car and take a walk once up in the mountains. We came here via the Hot Springs Mountain Scenic Drive, which winds a lot on the way up. There were numerous hiking trails along the way, like this one. there are a few lookout points like this one. You can't see much from here though, but the highest point in the park, the Hot Springs Mountain Tower, is right next to us. Let's go up there. Looks much taller from here. All in all, this mountain, including the tower, is about 400 plus meters high. So from up there, we should get a good view of the whole town and the park. We are traveling with friends in the southern states and would like to know what are the most interesting trails in this national park. Could you give me a map and tell me something about this place? The tower was built in 1982 as part of the project aimed at improving the tourist infrastructure of the park. The building itself is about 65 meters high and is made of steel and wood. The tower has an elevator with 2 stops. On the upper level, there is an open observation deck from which you can see the mountain range and almost the entire national park. The first level has almost the same view as the upper level, but it is enclosed by glass. There's also a museum of the city and the national park. With 5,550 acres, Hot Springs National Park is the smallest in the United States, but that doesn't mean there's nothing to see. Just take for instance its Ouachita Mountains with their pine and oak forests. There are also about 47 hot springs in the park that are replenished by an underground hot spring stream. Half of these have historically been directed to bathhouses, but there are many that are accessible to the public located along the hiking trails. I have to admit that I've really liked Hot Springs. It really surprised me because in addition to the quiet town with its cozy streets and bathhouses, and the national park itself, there was another surprise waiting for us. The stunning garden called Garvan Woodland Gardens. Part of this area was once owned by a family, but is now owned by the University of Arkansas, and it is truly a beautiful place. Garvan Woodland Gardens is a 210-acre botanical garden located in the foothills of the Ouachita Mountains, just a few kilometers from the city, and there's a lot to see. Walking paths, ponds, waterfalls, bridges, themed gardens, and unusual buildings. In the center of the garden stands Anthony Chapel, an architectural gem designed by Maurice Jennings, a renowned Arkansas architect. The frame of the structure is built of giant beams of red cedar, and the walls are made entirely of glass, allowing you to see the forest through them. The incredible atmosphere and the amazing acoustics inside create an indescribable feeling. Since the chapel was not built for any particular religious denomination, it often hosts weddings, concerts, and celebrations. Truth be told, if you were to come to Hot Springs and to have to choose between visiting the national park and visiting these gardens, we might advise you to opt for the gardens, because in addition to the themed gardens, such as the Japanese gardens, the lake views, and so on, there's a lot of unique architecture. It's really quite extraordinary. Just look at this building. It's a tree house. Look at this wonder. What a great blend of nature and architecture here. Honestly, we had a hard time leaving Hot Springs. The warm welcome, the history, and the natural beauty of this place left us impressed. However, it's time for us to move on, and in the next video, we will find ourselves in Jamaica, where we will tell you what you can do in this country and show you some of its most interesting parts. If you don't want to miss this video, click on the bell and keep an eye out for the alerts next week. Thank you so much for your likes and comments. They help a lot in developing the channel. Big hugs to you, and see you soon, world travelers.